Exploring the life and mysteries of Saint Francis of Assisi. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take you on a journey through the life and mysteries of Saint Francis of Assisi, a figure celebrated by the Catholic Church on the 4th of October. This remarkable man, who was declared a saint on July 16, 1228, not only bore the wounds of Christ's crucifixion but also lived a life of profound humility, devoted to poverty, love for lepers, and a deep connection with animals. However, his path wasn't always so noble. Join me as we delve into his extraordinary story, exploring his stigmata and unveiling the chronicles of his life. Number 1. Saint Francis of Assisi, the first stigmatized saint. Saint Francis of Assisi stands as a pivotal figure in Catholic history as the first recorded recipient of stigmata, the physical marks resembling the wounds of Christ's crucifixion. In 1224, 2 years before his passing, Francis embarked on an intense 40-day fast with his companions, aiming to connect with the suffering of Jesus. Their chosen location was Mount La Verna. As the feast of the exaltation of the cross approached, while deep in prayer, Francis witnessed a luminous figure descending from above. A seraph, an angel with 6 wings, appeared before him, igniting a profound experience. Overwhelmed, Francis fell to his knees, feeling a tingling pain, and experiencing an ecstatic connection with the divine. In a mysterious transformation, invisible nails seemed to pierce his hands and feet, while a symbolic wound emerged in his side, akin to Jesus' crucifixion. This event was recounted by the medieval Italian friar Tommaso da Celano. These stigmatic marks, resembling the crucifixion wounds, were imprinted on Francis' body. His hands and feet bore the marks of invisible nails, and a wound on his side perpetually bled, soaking his garments. In this state, Francis became a living reflection of the crucified Christ, paradoxically embodying both the joy of creation and the agony of Jesus on the cross. Though he initially concealed the stigmata, there were witnesses, including Pope Alexander IV, who attested to their authenticity. Number 2. The mystical phenomenon inspired by Saint Francis' stigmata. Saint Francis' stigmata sparked a profound mystical phenomenon within the Catholic tradition. He became the precursor to many others who claimed to bear similar stigmatic marks. While some skeptics argue these wounds were symptoms of leprosy, over 400 individuals from the 14th to the 20th century have reported experiencing stigmata. Among them, 353 were women, and 54 were men. Remarkably, 60 of these individuals have been canonized as saints, and it all began with Saint Francis. Number 3. Birth and early life. Born Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone around the year 1181, in the prosperous city of Assisi, now part of Italy, Francis emerged from a well-off family. His father, Pietro di Bernardone, was a wealthy silk merchant and landowner, in the vicinity of Assisi. His mother, Pica de Bourlemont, a noblewoman hailing from Provence, France, contributed to his lineage. Francis was one of 7 siblings. Number 4. Formative years. Francis, in his early years, embodied the lifestyle of a privileged youth. Indulged by his family, he relished in fine cuisine, exquisite wines, and raucous celebrations. Despite leaving school at the age of 14, his reputation as a handsome, charming, yet somewhat vain adolescent was known far and wide. But beyond these indulgences, a spiritual transformation awaited Francis, guiding him towards a life of profound significance. Stay with me as we venture deeper into his compelling journey, tracing the metamorphosis of a young man into a revered saint. Number 5. The name Francis and a life altered. Upon Saint Francis' birth, his father, Pietro, was away on business in France. Thus, his mother, Pica, christened him with the name Giovanni. However, upon Pietro's return, he began to call him Francesco, meaning free man or Frenchman. This intriguing name change was believed to reflect Pietro's admiration for his son's achievements and his fascination with French culture. Number 6, pursuing the dream of a medieval knight. Growing up in a privileged environment, Giovanni, now known as Francesco, acquired skills in horsemanship, archery, and combat. Despite his father's desire for him to follow in his trade, Francesco's heart yearned for the life of a medieval knight. Envisioning himself as a heroic figure like those of Arthurian legends, he aspired to join the ranks of gallant warriors, driven by ideals of chivalry and valor. Number 7, a captive of war. In a twist of fate, Francesco's aspirations for knighthood led him onto the battlefield. When Assisi clashed with Perugia in 1220, he eagerly joined the cavalry, despite his limited combat experience. Unfortunately, the Assisian forces were overpowered, and Francesco found himself among those captured by the enemy. Remarkably, his captors recognized his apparent nobility, and deemed him worthy of a substantial ransom, sparing his life. Number 8, a year in captivity. For nearly a year, Francesco endured life as a captive, confined to a damp underground cell. His time in captivity was marked by hardship, severe conditions, and a life-altering illness. These tribulations compelled him to reassess his existence, paving the way for a profound spiritual transformation. Number 9, the path to divine encounter. As often happens to those chosen by a higher purpose, Francesco's trials forged a connection with the divine. In the crucible of adversity, he underwent a profound change in his perception of life. His time in captivity was more than physical suffering, it became a period of profound introspection and spiritual revelation. These trials not only exposed him to debilitating illness but also opened the door to mystical visions and divine communication. Number 10, a transformed man returns. When Francesco's ransom was finally paid in 1203, he returned to Assisi a profoundly altered man. Physically weakened and emotionally scarred, he bore a new perspective. While he had once pursued a life of indulgence, he now embodied humility and compassion. This transformation was exemplified when he encountered a leper in his hometown. Overcoming his initial aversion, Francesco embraced and kissed the leper, a moment that would set the stage for a remarkable change in his life's trajectory. Number 11, the emergence of devotion. With a renewed purpose, prayer became the cornerstone of Francesco's life. He sought solace in the serene mountains and ancient temples of Assisi, where he communed with God. During a visit to the dilapidated San Damiano church, Francesco experienced an epiphany as he gazed at a Byzantine crucifix. He heard the voice of Jesus, urging him to rebuild the church and embrace a life of radical poverty. Guided by this divine calling, Francesco began to preach throughout Assisi, his humble example inspiring many. Number 12, a strained relationship with his father. His spiritual awakening sparked tensions within his family. When Francesco sold his father's costly fabric and his prized horse to fund his mission of rebuilding the church, Pietro's anger was ignited. He dragged his son to the local bishop, demanding restitution. In a decisive moment, Francesco renounced his material ties, disrobed, and symbolically returned everything to his father, declaring that God alone was his true father. Number 13, a humble journey begins. Embracing his new identity, Francesco donned humble attire provided by the local bishop. As he embarked on his humble path, fate threw a curveball. Francesco encountered a band of dangerous thieves who stripped him of his humble belongings and subjected him to a brutal beating. Despite this ordeal, his resolve to lead a life of extreme poverty and adherence to the gospel remained unwavering. Number 14, Birth of the Franciscan Friars. Saint Francis' unwavering commitment to poverty emerged from a time when the opulent church had veered away from its apostolic ideals. He recognized that the Church's leadership had strayed, an alarming signal that led him and other Christians to call for a restoration of those core values. With his charismatic charisma, Francis began addressing the people, delivering sermons that emphasized Christian virtues. Through his fervent preaching, he beckoned people from all walks of life to join him in embracing a life of humility and devotion. As more and more individuals aligned themselves with his teachings, they came to be known as the Franciscanfriars. Number 15, a reverence for nature and all living creatures. Saint Francis held a profound connection with nature, seeing it as a reflection of God's divine presence. His affinity for animals was a testament to his spiritual understanding, as he referred to them as his brothers and sisters. Notably, he was even known to preach to the animals. His dedication to compassionate living extended to all beings, and he believed that to truly love Jesus of Nazareth, one had to love all for whom Jesus died. It is said that he once tamed a ferocious wolf in Guerbiau, convincing it to stop attacking villagers in exchange for their goodwill. Number 16, establishing a new religious order. In his quest to establish a new religious order, Saint Francis sought permission from Pope Innocent III. Accompanied by his followers, he traveled to Rome to meet the Pope, aided by Bishop Guido of Assisi. The Pope approved their request after meeting with them, blessing their endeavors, and urging them to return when their group had grown in both grace and number. Number 17, a papal approval born from a dream. Initially skeptical of supporting Francis, Pope Innocent III's stance underwent a dramatic shift after he had a dream. In this dream, he saw Francis holding up the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, a cathedral intricately linked to the papacy. This dream convinced the Pope that Francis and his followers would help maintain the Church's spiritual foundation. Number 18, Francis founded orders. Saint Francis established several orders that left a lasting impact on the Church. These included the Order of Friars Minor for men, the Order of St. Clare for women, the Third Order of St. Francis, and the Custody of the Holy Land. Number 19, St. Clare of Assisi. Among his followers was the noblewoman Clare of Assisi, who would later be canonized as Saint Clare. She, along with her cousin Rufino, joined the Third Order after leaving her family's palace. Under Saint Francis' guidance, she founded the Order of Poor Ladies, later known as the Poor Clares. She and other women were initially housed in a nearby Benedictine monastery, awaiting approval for a suitable convent. Saint Francis gifted her a garment similar to his own, a symbol of their shared commitment. Number 20, spreading the gospel far and wide. Saint Francis' fervor for spreading the gospel knew no bounds. He embarked on journeys of many miles to share the word of God. He attempted a pilgrimage to Morocco in 1213, which was thwarted by illness. He also journeyed to Spain and even ventured to Egypt during the Fifth Crusade, where he engaged in dialogue with the Sultan al-Kamil. His extensive travels led to the establishment of Franciscan provinces in various regions, including France, Germany, Hungary, Spain, and the Middle East. Number 21, Custodians of the Holy Land. After the fall of the Crusader states, it was the Franciscans who the Church recognized as custodians of the holy sites in the Holy Land. This recognition was a direct result of Saint Francis' interactions with Muslim leaders during his travels, including the Sultan al-Kamil. Number 22, living a Christ-like life. Following his conversion, Saint Francis' way of life began to closely mirror that of Jesus of Nazareth. He immersed himself in prayer, seeking solace in quiet places to commune with God. Like Jesus, he preached fervently and chose to live among the poor. An anecdote reminiscent of Jesus healing the sick among the destitute emerged during his visit to Rome. There, he spent time with beggars around St. Peter's Basilica, embracing them with a genuine compassion that mirrored Christ's teachings. Number 23, Attendance at the Fourth Lateran Council. Saint Francis attended the Fourth Lateran Council, a pivotal moment in church history. This ecumenical council, convened by Pope Innocent III, reaffirmed key doctrinal elements. During this gathering, Saint Francis encountered Saint Dominic, the founder of the Dominican order. Number 24, quelling miraculous hysteria. Saint Francis' influence extended even beyond his lifetime. After the death of a fellow Franciscan, Pedro Catani, people believed miracles were occurring at his tomb. This led to a fervent rush to witness these supposed miracles. Concerned about the chaos this was causing, Saint Francis prayed, and miraculously, the reported miracles ceased. Number 25, his passing and caring friends. Saint Francis' health had deteriorated over the years, exacerbated by the bleeding wounds he bore. He passed away on October 3, 1226, at the age of 44. His devoted companions cared for him during his final days, notably during his stay at San Damiano. Number 26, canonization and basilica construction. In less than 2 years after his passing, on July 16, 1228, Pope Gregory IX officially declared Saint Francis a saint. Pope Gregory IX also laid the foundation stone for the Basilica of Saint Francis in Assisi, a magnificent structure that stands to this day. Number 27, rediscovery of his tomb. Saint Francis' remains were initially hidden due to fears of invasion by marauding Saracens. The exact location was lost over time. It wasn't until 1818, under the authorization of Pope Pius VII, that his tomb was rediscovered by local Catholics. Number 28, mementos in his tomb. When Saint Francis' tomb was rediscovered, his body was found with intriguing artifacts, including a ring, 12 silver coins, 29 beads, a piece of iron, and a stone under his head. The significance of these items remains a mystery. Number 29, patron of ecology. Saint Francis' reverence for nature led him to be declared the patron saint of ecology by Pope John Paul II on November 29, 1979. His profound love for all of creation and his famous Canticle of the Sun have resonated through time and have inspired contemporary discussions on environmental responsibility. Number 30, influence beyond Catholicism. From the 19th century onwards, various Protestant groups have sought to adhere to Saint Francis' teachings. Anglican and Lutheran communities have established Franciscan orders, carrying on his legacy of humility and compassion. Number 31, writings and representations. Saint Francis' writings, including the Canticle of the Creatures and letters to the whole order, have gained recognition worldwide. His life has also been depicted in various forms of art, from frescoes to opera. His teachings have transcended time, inspiring countless hearts to embrace his message of love and unity. As we conclude our journey through the life of Saint Francis of Assisi, we recognize his profound impact on humanity. He embraced a life that reached beyond religious boundaries, leaving an indelible mark on the world. We hope that this narrative has enlightened and enriched your understanding of this extraordinary individual. If you have insights to share, please do so in the comments section. Remember to like this video and share it with your family and friends, allowing them to discover the 31 mysteries and curiosities of Saint Francis of Assisi's life, and his stigmata. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, make sure to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We'll be back soon with more curiosities from history.